So once again, let's jump into yet another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon, come support us. Let us know that we're doing a good job here on the podcast. Patreon.com/Protoman. Check the description below. Check the pinned comment. Give it a clicky click and come join us. What does the Patreon get you? Well, it gets you your name in the end scroll of every single segment moving forward from your patronage. Gets you access to the Discord for the Transformer Slag podcast, exclusive only to the patrons. Lots of cool stuff there. We break news there. We talk about Transformers. And most importantly, we post deals. We post all kinds of web deals online, stuff that's happening with major big box retailers so you could save money on your hobby. And we even post rare lore. I just recently posted a whole bunch of translations of Japanese manga Transformer content that has not been posted anywhere else. What else do we got? Well, depending on a certain tier, you might even get a little something something in the old snail mail, a little Transformer present here and there. And of course, most importantly, the Patreon listener question. We have a Patreon listener question from one of our patrons, Spider Monkey, and he wants to know, hey Protoman, do you think we will ever see Hasbro take a crack at the Pretender concept ever again? Maybe even do like they do with the higher price point stuff, have a Voyager or something like that with a leader class price point that comes with armor or pieces, or hollow out a basic scale figure and put a Scout inside it. Let me know what you think, and thanks for everything, Spider Monkey. Oh man, so anyone who knows me knows that I love Transformers Master Force. It's one of my favorite Transformer series of all time. So it's so unique, it's so different, and it's so polarizing with so many people. But I love it because it just took a different take on Transformers than what we were used to traditionally up to that point. And especially when I first discovered it all the way back in the day in the late 90s, it was just such a breath of fresh air. You know, here I am collecting at the time Beast Wars. Beast Machines had not even come out yet, which also was a very different take in a lot of ways. But, you know, here I am collecting Beast Wars while trying to catch up on G1 that I had missed and G2 that I had missed up to that point. And every time I picked up a Pretender shell, you know, sure, there was stuff in the Marvel comics and stuff, but Master Force really gave some life to characters like Skullgrin, a.k.a. Duros, or, you know, someone even like Landmine, a.k.a. Lander in Master Force. And I just loved Pretender shells. And you're asking me, like, will Hasbro ever take a crack at it again? That's where I'm kind of worried. Because, you know, we went back in 2017, 2018 with Transformers Power of the Primes. And it was pretty apparent that they were giving us what they feel would be the safe way to do Pretender shells. And what's crazy is they never at any point in any of the marketing material or copyright material referred to them as Pretenders. They were the Power of the Prime Masters with their decoy armor. Prime Masters, inner robots, the decoy armor, that shell, if you will. And while all those decoy armors did sport their trademark names of Skullgrin, Cloudburst, Metalhawk, Submarauder, Landmine, Bombburst, Bludgeon, and Octopunch, they were never referred to as those characters, but just a decoy armor. And I almost feel in a lot of ways that the only way they were even able to pull off this whole decoy armor thing was because they wanted to really trademark all those Prime Master names, all those original 13 members. Liege Maximo, Micronus, Vector Prime, Alchemist, Alpha Trion, Megatronus, Quintus, Solus, the list goes on and on and on, Primo with the later figures. But at the same time, as a Pretender shell lover like me, I bought all of these. I was super happy about it. But it was very apparent that these didn't sell very well. They ended up on clearance in a lot of places, and Hasbro even planned a brand new mold for a Wave Rider Pretender shell, which they were going to share and use with the planned Legends Grand Maximus. The Legends Grand Maximus ended up not meeting the pre-order demands of 3,000. The Wave Rider mold, which was going to be used for Grand Maximus Grand Pretender shell, never happened. And the Wave Rider mold for that Pretender shell, or that decoy armor, never saw a future wave, a potential wave 4, or even that of an exclusive elsewhere. So they just didn't do well. Sure, I loved it, but I guess a lot of other people didn't. And they hit major clearance, and now you see them kicking around today between $5 and $10. Think about it. It's already been about 4 years removed from their release, and they still kind of just hold their MSRP at best at actual mint and package price. So, if they were $9.99 back then, they're still $9.99 today, which is kind of sad when you think about it. They just didn't do well. And Hasbro's take when it comes to Pretender characters moving forward is they just use those trademarks and just make straight up robots out of them. Think of like the most popular of all the Pretenders, like let's say Bludgeon or Thunderwing. They just use those trademarks and they just throw it on full robot characters. A Bludgeon Transformer toy now will not be a Pretender. It'll just be a straight up skull-based kind of tank robot. A Thunderwing toy today will not be a Pretender. It'll be some kind of jet-based, Transformer with his Pretender shell being the robot mode's head instead. And when you think of all these other characters, like, that became toys later on, like Roadblock or Skullgrin or even Octopunch with Bakhan, let's say, they just took those Pretender names, use elements of the Pretender shell, use elements of the transformations, and just made a straight-up Transformer character, ignoring its Pretender history. Outside of the design, of course. And then even I'm trying to think of Iguanus. Here's this guy that was only a Pretender character, and then when they did Beast Wars, they needed a trademark. So they slapped Iguanus on that trademark, and then they kind of ran with it within Beast Wars. He got a Transmetal 2 and stuff, to the point that its Pretender origins are kind of lost, if anything. So they really became, kind of a lost piece of trademarking, and the names just were more important than even that of the characters. And when you look at, again, like something like Landmine, that started as a Pretender shell, and now that's a trademark used across all kinds of different Transformer products, and it really kind of ignores its Pretender origins. It's a shame, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. And as it partakes to, would Hasbro take a crack at it again? I don't know. As much as I would love it more than you or me. I would love it like crazy, but I feel that they're just so nervous with it. I think that, honestly, if they revisited the idea, it would be more of a one-shot kind of thing. Like, if they would revisit the idea of a Pretender shell, they'll take a Voyager price point and mixed in with, let's say, the average Voyager case would be usually 2 characters. They'll have one normal transforming character, and then they'll have one that works with that price point. That, like you said, you could take a Scout class figure, give it the armor, and have some little fun with that. I could just see it more being done like that, if anything else. Because it would be a one-shot. It wouldn't be a whole line of it like we got with Power of the Primes. It would just be like, hey, we're going to give you cross blades. He's going to turn into a Pretender shell, motorcycle, and smaller robot kind of thing that's a Scout class. And we'll put in that Voyager price point. I could see that happening, but it would be just that. It would be a one-shot. And then when we would ever see it again is a whole other question. And that brings another problem, too, is that if you did do that Crossblades one-shot, what do you repaint it into afterwards? The another thing, too, that was a heavy reminder with Hasbro was look at all those decoy armors we got from Prime Masters and Power of the Primes. You have Metal Hawks, that mold, right? That came with Vector Prime. Did they repaint it and do anything with it? No. Think about the Cloudburst one, the Skullgrin. All of those decoy armors never got a repaint. They never repainted afterwards. So usually Hasbro, which takes a mold and does something with it, gets a little bit of their R&D back, gets a little bit of their development back, and repaints or retools something. They did none of that with all of these Prime Masters, which shows that they were so not confident with the sales that to even do repaints and put a whole new, block of assortment of these out there, taking Metal Hawk's mold and repainting it into, let's say, Pretender Starscream's colors or something, classic Pretender Starscream, or taking, Landmine's mold and repainting it into Grimlock. It's something where they weren't confident in these. They really weren't. Now, granted, BotCon kind of was looking at it differently, and if there would have been a BotCon 2017, 2018, 2019, things would have been different. But from the Hasbro side of things, they were not feeling it. They really weren't. And it shows. It shows that was that. Even the way they handled it, they didn't even want the names of the Pretenders to be the headliners. The headliners of those toys for the Prime Masters was the original 13 names. So there's some kind of weird relationship when it comes to that of the Pretender characters and the gimmick and how it is being implemented right now at Hasbro. And it really is more something where you kind of have to look to third party. And even third party is an expensive and bulky choice right now. I mean, we look at the Dino King Pretenders and how those didn't even really kind of finish properly. So it's tough. It really is. And it's something that's a shame because I love the idea. It's a fun, original idea. But I think that the next time we'll ever see it in a retail official capacity will probably be a one-shot. It'll probably be like maybe they'll revisit Bludgeon or they'll revisit an obscure Pretender character, and that'll be the way that we get a shell with a robot armor kind of thing. And it'll be a one shot. And if that thing is popular, then we might see more of it. But at the same time, it might not be the case. Kind of like how we got Astro Train as a triple changer in the Classics line in 2006 as a one shot. And then they're like, okay, we're going to do, I think they called it Tankor at the time, which was Octane. That was the trademark they had. But then they did Tankor, and then, you fast forward a bit, and then they saw Blitzwing. Like, it's not something that they did as one swoop with the triple changers, and it's kind of the same thing here. Triple changers being a gimmick, and then same thing here with decoys. I think that, not decoys, with Pretenders. I see them kind of like, we're going to test the water maybe in a year or so when one of those trademarks come up and it makes sense to do it. And then they'll do something. I mean, look, they trademarked Octo Punch, and they've been using it on and off recently. They got to do something with it sooner or later, or though they might just do something that's very Octo related, and they won't have to do a Pretender shell. But there's some characters that were historically Pretender shells, and they managed to just make directly transforming robots and avoid the whole Pretender gimmick. I mean, Thunderwing being the best example of that in terms of throwing that trademark everywhere. So it's going to be a tough one. Again, I wish I could give good news on it, but it's going to be a tough one just because the Power of the Prime thing didn't turn out. Imagine, cheap price point. The lowest price point of the Power of the Prime's Prime Masters was the cheapest price point, and it just didn't sell. It just didn't do well. It was the original 13. It was Pretenders. It was easy to buy. It was collectible, and it didn't do well. So do you see them taking that same concept completely, investing more in a deluxe, Voyager, Leader, whatever price point? I doubt it. That's just my take. But that's just my take. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. But the way the money has been moving here doesn't lead to any kind of confidence. But I hope that answers your question a little bit, Spider Monkey. And if you want to be like Spider Monkey and join the Patreon, once again, check the description below, check the pinned comment, patreon.com/Protoman, and ask a really good question like this one here on the podcast.